Good morning. Oh, I'll have to teach you guys how to say good morning in Hindi.
We wouldn't know if we were saying it correctly.
You're supposed to say namaste.
Namaste.
This way, the next time you go see your doctor, you can say hello. Because I guarantee you, in your lifetime, either you go see a doctor or a radiologist or the guy who reads your MRI, he's going to be Indian.
Well, Vijay, what about if we go to a motel or a convenience store?
There you go. You can do that too. Or a 7-Eleven. One of those.
Or a spelling bee.
There you go. Or a spelling bee. I'm going to talk about when Dan called me last night. He said, well, the gentleman who's supposed to be teaching, he got the stomach flu. Will you talk? I said, absolutely. I'm full of baloney. I'll be happy to talk about it. But being born as a Christian in India is very different. Very different from here. There are very few Christians in India. Our language is different. Our writing is different. And even the traditions are different. For example, I'm going to talk first also about myself a little about India, and then I'll get into the biblical portion of it. This is my name, and I'll tell you how I write it. It's Vijay Kumar, Kumar, Michael. There's a significance about this, and I'll talk about that. But that's not how we write in India. My name would have been like this.
I like that better.
If I join these lines, that becomes one word. But if you separate them, they're two separate words. Very different. Indian history, long time ago, tried learning Indian history. When I took American history when I came to the United States, they said, oh, this is going to be tough on you. I said, oh, no. We don't go 5,000 BC. We start a whole lot early later on here. It's a whole lot easier to learn American history. No, even the numbers are different. 1 to 10 or 1 to 0, that's 1. 2 looks the same. 3 looks the same. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 0. 8, 9. I'm sorry. There isn't.
That looked like my prescription.
An Indian wrote it, that's why. So even our numbers look different. So learning English was a little different for me. In high school or in what you would call 10th grade, I took general English, and then in college, I took General English 1 and General English 2. It's like taking 2 courses in French, and you go to France to live. It ain't easy. And one of the first things I realized that if I wanted to get anywhere, I had to learn the language first. Not only learn the language, I'm sorry, but learn the language well and be able to speak and communicate very well. And English is not the easiest thing to learn. First day I landed in New York, I wanted to get some change to make a phone call. In those days, I came in 1969. There used to be phone calls were a dime a piece. I gave the lady my dollar bill. I asked for some change. She counted me the money, and I said, thank you. And she said, you bet. And I thought for a minute, this lady is a bookish. She's asking me to bet. I said, no, 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 no. No, no bets. So, even different spellings or different pronunciation of same word. Two. T-O is two. T-W-O is two. T-O is two. Which one to use? When? So these are little quirks in English language. And some of these guys, I've told you, and my roommate in college, so I'm going to repeat it again. One day woke up and said, oh my God, I got a Charlie horse in my leg. You got a horse in your leg? And you know his name? His name is Charlie? You don't realize these are little idioms that you all use that other people do not know. Just because you showed up here and you know the English language and you passed the test. By the way, I didn't even pass the English as a foreign language test. I had to repeat college again. The place I went to college was Texas Tech University. And all foreign students, yeah, hey, hook 'em on, not hook 'em. It's this way. There you go. All colleges in the United States give you, it's called TOEFL, Test of English as a Foreign Language. And if you pass it, then you get admitted. You're admitted, but you have to take all kinds of leveling courses. Well, I didn't pass it, so they said, I'm sorry, just because you have a bachelor's from India, it means absolutely nothing. You don't even know how to speak English, leave alone all your courses were in Hindi. You learned it like that. We want you to learn it like that. So it says you'd have to take a lot of leveling courses. That's what they called them in those days.
Vijay, you've probably been here long enough that you've seen people who have even grown up in this country that don't speak English very well.
I have noticed that. I have noticed that.
You got to remember, he was in Texas.
Yes. Where instead of call it WED is wed. NES is nest. DAY is day. Wednesday. No, in Texas called Wednesday. Nothing. Very different pronunciation. Well, anyway, I'll talk a little about India and then I'll get to the biblical portion. In India, there's lots of different religions, but breakdown would be like 78% of them are Hindus, thousands of gods. Depends which caste you belong to, what your business is, and which god you prefer to worship. You're a Hindu and you're a big businessman, you worship Maya, the goddesses of wealth. You are somebody else in a different profession, you may worship somebody else. There's even a goddesses of death, Kali. And she's got a sword in her hand and she's got her tongue sticking out, blood dripping. So all kinds of gods. They are so liberal, sometimes they'll even put a picture of Christ in there. They don't want to miss anybody. 78% are Hindus, about 15.2% are Muslims. That's a lot of Muslims. You think 15% is hard, but that's a very small number. There's 1.5 billion Indians there. They're like potatoes. They're everywhere. So when you have that many people, 15% of that is large. They're the largest Muslim population in the world. They live in India. There are more Muslims in India than there are in Pakistan or Saudi Arabia or any other place. Then there are Sikhs, Sikh. These are the people with the beard and their turban, and they are from the warrior caste. They are the Hindus that turned militant against the Muslims. They were from the warrior caste, and I'll go into the warrior, what the caste system is in just a minute. And then there are Christians, then there are Jains. Christians are, by the way, only 2.3% of the population, not very many. I went to a high school where we had to have shifts. In other words, there was a morning shift and there was an evening shift from 7 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, a second shift came in the students because there were so many, you couldn't accommodate all in what at one time. So, and I went to the morning shift. So there are a lot of Indians in there. In my high school, which is approximately 5,000 students, give or take some, there were 3 Christians. I was one of them. The rest were all Hindus or Muslims, or Jains, or fire worshippers, or sun worshippers. And the newest one is Baha'i. I don't know if you all ever heard of Baha'is. This is a religion that started somewhere in Iran. They have started coming to India too now. Bunch of them. Are everybody's greetings are different. Hindus generally, mostly all Indians say namaste. Muslims don't say that. Muslims say salam alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. That's their greeting. Peace be upon you. They really don't mean that, but that's how they say it. The most violent people in the world, but that's neither here nor there, but that's what they do. The Sikhs have a totally different greetings. Sat Sri Akal. Okay? Only God is the truth. They really also don't mean that. The Christians, especially the village Christians, the more Christians are, since they have become educated, they say good morning, good evening, or namaste. Most of the time, namaste. But Jai Masiki, Masih is the Messiah, or the word Jesus Christ. Jai Masiki, may Jesus be praised. So if I was an Indian villager and you're a Christian and you walk by, I would say Jai Masiki, instead of saying good morning or good evening. So our greetings are different too. I was born in a Christian family. Now, this is the reason why I need to come back to my last name. We were Sikhs. My grandfather was great grandfather was a Sikh. He was his name was Nansuk Singh, and during the 1870, December 12th, 1870, which would be about 156 years from back, a Christian missionary, American missionary, Methodist missionary, converted him to Christianity. And all Indians, if you are Sikh, your last name is Singh, Singh, which means lion. You could be the world's biggest chicken, but if you are born in that family, you are a lion, sir. That people last name. You probably know a lot of Patels. They come from a different state in India. I can tell you by the name what your religion is, what state you come from, what your standing, what your caste is. So, my great grandfather Nansuk Singh, he converted to Christianity. He had 4 boys, and all those boys, his last name, my grandfather's name was Hemraj Singh. Hemraj, when he grew up, he truly was devoted to Christianity. He became a pastor in the village, and he started preaching and trying to convert people to Christianity. But people still thought, because his name was Hemraj Singh, that he was still a Sikh. He just got a haircut and shaved his beard off. And so he went to the missionary that was in his neighborhood and asked him, what name should I change my name to? And he said, why would you want to change your name? He said, people still think I'm a Sikh. So he said, okay, what caste do you belong to? He said, I'm from the warrior caste. He said, change your last name to Michael. The Archangel Michael fights for God. So the next day, he took his three sons to the county courthouse and he asked, did a petition. He was fined 25 rupees, which is like $25. And they changed his last name to Michael. So my father was one of the first Michael. Before that, we were always saints, which is how you can tell what your names are. Most Indians don't eat meat. They're vegetarians. Also depends what part of India you are. You're living next to the coast. Well, of course, there are a lot of fishermen. So even though you're Hindu, you still eat fish, but you don't eat beef. By the way, beef is not allowed. You can't buy beef in India. You can eat water buffalo in its place, which is just as good, actually. The water buffalo milk is far richer than cow's milk. Why, I don't know, but that's how it is. So my grandfather, my father, me, and now my son, Rajesh Michael, we're going to be all Michaels with a name, Christian name, saying we belong to Christ.
When you moved to Texas, did anybody ask you where you're from?
All the time. The Hispanics thought I was Spanish. The blacks wanted to be, said, are you part black? I said, no. And then the rest of the people, they had no concept, no idea who the heck I was. Not only that, even in those days, by the way, when you register in school, there were only three categories. There was, and you had to check. You had to check what your race was. It said black, white, or others. I was always in others because I didn't know what the heck to write. And and of course, because of the English language, since I didn't pass the English test, I was neither a freshman, sophomore, junior. I was always the other on that side too. I've always been an other for a while. Indian food is very different. By the way, you have eaten Indian food before, have you? Have you? You know what naan is? Does anybody know? Would you please tell somebody? Would you tell them what naan is?
Naan's if I'm right, it's a flat bread. It's a delicious bread. It's prepared just before the meal. Yeah, so they have different breads.
Yeah, different part of India.
Yeah, it looks like a tortilla, but it's not.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
You didn't tell them about when you first encountered an American Indian.
I'll have to tell you that. Let me tell you something about the naan. In Indian restaurant, the gentleman walked in to an Indian restaurant, and the waiter comes over, and he says, "Are you going to be ordering naan?" He says, Why do you ask?" He hands him a white sheet of paper with a line drawn underneath it. He said, "Just read it and just sign it." "What does it say?" It says, "You have the right to order naan here and sign it." He said, "Why do I have to sign that?" He said, "Just sign it. It's an ordinary non-disclosure. Non-disclosure. I had to tell you since you're a lawyer, a non-disclosure agreement." So since we didn't have, also I didn't know God was divided in so many portions. The Christian God. We had a Methodist church in my city, which is millions of people. We had a Catholic church, and we had an Episcopal church. And that was it. I'd never heard there were Presbyterians. I never heard there the Nazarenes, the Church of God. All these till I came to the United States. Oh my God, there's so many Christians, different kinds. We divided God into different portions. We all think He's only our God. Guys, He's everybody's God. He loves everybody. Christians sometimes the hardest part for Christians to swallow is, and that is that we only think that God only loves us. He doesn't, guys. He loves the Hindus just as much as he loves you and me. He makes the sun to shine on all of them. And so because the Indian community was so small, my mother, she was an educated lady. She was a math teacher, and which in those days, by the way, was an anomaly because during that time, first of all, Indian ladies never went to college. She had not only held a college degree, she didn't just teach history or language or social studies or things like that. She taught algebra, geometry, trigonometry, those kind of subjects. Which people used to wonder, wow, this woman is smart. And so she was really the force behind me and my three brothers to come to the United States and get into college and go further. But she was also a devout Christian. Her father also was a pastor, and his name was also Mawashi Singh. He was also a Singh. He was a Christian convert from Sikhism. And my mother used to teach us Bible studies or Bible stories, basically. All the neighborhood children that were Christians, which would be about 8 or 10 of them in the entire city, their parents would bring them and drop them off at our house on Sunday mornings. And my mother would hold Sunday school for them. And she'd read Bible and she'd teach us stories, and we learned about the Ten Commandments and about all the biblical stories, which was very different. And you learn all these different stories, and then you grow up. And when you grow up, you read them again, and they have a totally different meaning. I used to think, why all these stories in the Bible? They've got nothing to do with God. Very little. And then we saw a movie came out for Ten Commandments with Charles Neston, and it even came to India. So we went to see them too. And so I'm going to talk about two biblical stories today that I learned from my mother as a little child. And now, after I've read them many, many times, now it's a totally different meaning for me. So one of the first stories I would like to talk about is about Samson. Do you all have any heroes in your life? Did you ever, as a child growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero, sir?
Well, my uncles all fought in the Second World War. One of them was a pilot, B-17 on some of the first thing like runs over Germany.
Yeah,
And those stories just
fascinating.
curl your hair.
Yeah.
Bad.
Anybody did you have any sports figures? Any like
Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. Heroes. There you go. Yeah, these were the heroes. Yeah, the Lone Ranger. Actually, before I get involved in the story, since John reminded me of how first time I met an American Indian, I was in Albuquerque. And you know how in Albuquerque, there are a lot of American Indians. They had a little balcony type place where, of course, my wife is shopping. And by the way, I'm married to an American girl. Her name is Martha. She goes to a different class here. And we've been married for 54 years and we have 2 children. But these American Indians had put up little stalls and they were selling their goods. And I didn't have anything better to do. She's a knitter, so she was looking some wool or something like that. I had no interest in it, so I just wandered around looking at these things. I said, "Where are you from?" And they asked me, "Are you from California?" I said, "No, I'm from India." Kind of looked at me funny. I said, "Columbus was looking for me when they found you." And it just went right over there. They had no concept what the heck I was talking about. They had absolutely no idea. So back to Mr. Samson. My hero was Samson. You know why? When you are 8 or 10-year-old boy, and I don't know about you, I wanted to be tough like him. I wanted to be able to beat up anybody I could and kill a lion with bare hands and kill 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass and be able to do all kinds of things that Samson could do. By the way, he was a Nazarite. You know what a Nazarite is? Nazarite means set apart for God. Set apart for God. Any other Nazarites do you know of in the Bible? There are two others, very prominent one.
Jesus was a Nazarene.
He was a Nazarene, but not a Nazarite. There was two other Nazarites in the Bible. One was Samuel. Remember, his mother took him as he was a baby and took him to the temple and set him aside and gave him to the priest and said, "Here, he's yours now. He belongs to God." There was another very important Nazarite. That was John the Baptist. There's only three Nazarites mentioned in the Bible. So my hero was Nazarite. One of the things Nazarites do is they don't drink any liquor, anything made out of the grapes, wine, or whatever you can make out of it. And then there was another thing that they're not supposed to do. What was different about it? There you go. They were not supposed to cut their hair. And so you remember about the story about Samson? He had long hair. His strength was where? His strength was in his hair. He was convinced of it. And as a child growing up, maybe I need to grow my hair long too, because maybe I'll be strong like that. Why did our grandfather cut his hair? They all Sikhs, by the way, don't cut their hair. How do they cut their hair? But when you look at Samson, mine was totally different. What he was talking about, of course, Samson was not a good person. At first I thought he was a wonderful person, strong, doing all kinds of things. You know, he tied the tails of foxes and set it on fire in people's fields. That's an arsonist. You know, some of these things that he did, they were not the best of our people or best of things that you could do. He was flawed, just like you and me. And then here comes Miss Delilah. And what did Miss Delilah do?
Wicked.
What she do?
She cut his hair.
Cut his hair. And then what happened? He lost his strength. He was convinced that his strength came from his hair. And when his hair was gone, there was no more strength. So what they do, they captured him. They took him to the prison. By the way, the Philistines are the ones that took him. You know where the Philistines live? Gaza. If you look in the Bible, the word Gaza is still mentioned. That's where the Philistines were. And they gouged out his eyes. And they threw tomatoes at him. And they made fun of him. Then he remembered, there was a God who gave me the strength. My strength does not come from my hair. So he asked the guy, says, let me hold the pillars of this temple. And he said his prayers. And he killed more people by bringing down the temple than he had ever killed, even the Philistines, because he remembered where his strength came from. Where does your strength come from? Or my strength come from? It would come from my bank balance, my 401k, my degrees, my job, which house I live in, which neighborhood I live in. You know, we do these things, unfortunately. Huh? Guys, our strength comes from our God. Always remember, your strength comes from your God, the God Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. Not in your 401ks and your degrees and your jobs and your titles. Second one I learned was that my mother told us was the story about the great Ten Commandments, and we went to see Ten Commandments. And I was always impressed how God sent out a gigantic tornado and the Red Sea was just parted. Very, very impressive. But you really don't know all the things that they did. And it didn't really sink in till about the time after we had the Great War here in the Middle East. And the quartermaster general was asked to move about 175,000 U.S. troops when Saddam Hussein was there, so we could be ready to take him on. God, my allergies are killing me, so if I keep blowing my nose, I'm not sick. It's just, I don't know what I'm allergic to, but I'm allergic to something. They asked the quartermaster general, how much stuff does it take? What does it take to move this many people out there? He said, why do you ask? We were trying to figure out what the Exodus was like. How many people moved in the Exodus? Does anybody remember, Ben Bible? 1.5 million people moved. That's a lot of people. A lot of people. And he said it would take a train load of food to feed them every day. That stuff can't fell out of the sky, guys. Can you imagine? A train load of food fell out of the sky every single day for 40 years. And he said every time you stop at a railroad crossing, Vijay, look at the train. And since that day, every time I see a train, I think, oh my God, that much food? Imagine, most of the time it's got coal coming up to the top. Well, think about it, filled with men every single day. And not only that, it had to be cooked. Well, how do you cook in the middle of nowhere? Fire. So where did the wood come from? He said it would take approximately a trainload of wood to cook that food for 1.5 million people. And these people are in the desert. Driftwood? That's a lot of driftwood. God provided every single day. And they were amazed. And even Moses was amazed and surprised and sometimes mad at God. People wanted water. Says, can we have a little water to wash these dishes? Wash a few clothes. Drink, feed our camel and give them some drinks. Because they did, by the way, take the animals too. 1.5 million are only people. They brought their cattle along with them too. And you know what God tells Moses? He says, go hit that rock. Can you imagine? If I was there, I would say, what are you talking about, God? You want me to go hit the rock? What has that got to do with water? But he listened. He had faith. He went and hit the rock. And enough water came out that everything was okay. That's an awesome God. That's your and mine God that provided for 40 years, not just once or twice or so many days, 40 years. Their shoes didn't wear off. Their clothes didn't wear off. That's an awesome God. You think you and I have worries and problems? Do you all have problems? I have problems all the time. We worry about food. We worry about money. We worry about jobs, about our children. Do you think he can solve those things? I think so. If he can do all those things, you think he can solve your and my problems? That's an awesome God. He provided. So, a couple of lessons to take away from this. And then I'll come back to the Indian things, the Indians, and then you can ask me questions. Number one, whenever you stop at a train, I hope you remember to count and look the amount of food or coal or ours probably carries oil in them, but they look black on the top with oil spilt on it. They would be filled with water. That's how much food God provided for 40 years. And so if you are worrying about something and you're sitting there waiting for the arm to come up, I hope you remember that you have a God who can provide those things for 40 years and make food fall from the sky. And he can surely solve your problems. The catch is, are you willing to go to him for that? Am I willing to go? I'll be the first one to tell you I don't most of the time till I'm desperate. And then all of a sudden, say, oh God, please help. I hope you all remember to do that. And remember, like Samson's story, your strength is not in what you have or where you live or how much money you have or how many degrees you have, how many titles you have. The Queen of England, when she died, stands naked in front of Christ, just like the poor man on the street corner. They're all even in his sight. Remember, God is your awesome God. Those were the two of my lessons for the, and I'll talk about the Indian part, and then you can ask me about questions. United States is a big country. Here, India is a lot smaller. It's about 1/3 the size of the United States. However, we only have 349 million people, depending on how many illegals we count. Same way with India, anywhere from 1.3 million to 1.5 million. A billion, I'm sorry, not million, billion, which is a lot of people. Take a whole bunch more, okay? 4 or 5 times the population of the United States. Stuff them in the 1/3 the size of the United States. And that's what it's like living in India. Somebody asked me when I first came, so are there a lot of people? I said, in Texas, by the way, there's red ants. I don't know if you've ever seen a red ant mound. It's a big old mound. I said, well, next time you see a red ant mound, just kick it. And you'll see thousands of them just running everywhere. I said, that's how it's like in India. We're running everywhere. Nothing closes. You can go at 2 o'clock in the morning and the market is still open. People are shopping. People are wandering around. You never see anybody on the road here. We're all in our cars, driving every occasionally now and then you see somebody walking. Not true. In India, you have cars, you have bicycles, you have rickshaws, you have motorists, you have cows, you have camels, horses. Animals are also walking by themselves. Cows are considered holy. So they have free reign. They can walk anywhere on the road. Cars have to come to a stop till the cow walks off. And sometimes she sits down. And so you have to go around the side of it. You cannot bump him or honk the horn at him. Children, when they're babies, are given the milk from cows. And it's considered equivalent to your mother. And you don't eat your mother no matter how hungry you are. So they don't kill the cows. They also believe in reincarnation. In other words, you're born over and over and over, depending upon how you live life. You do good, you're born in a bigger or better status. You do bad, you may have to come back like a cockroach or somebody. And somebody may have to step on you because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. While the Indians are good people and they are bad people, just like here in the United States. They believe in karma, and that's why they're happy in their status, but they are. They're not trying to come back as you and I believe that we'll go to heaven and be with our Maker. They don't know what they will be. I had an old roommate from college here in the United States. He was a Jain. When he died, I went to his funeral. By the way, the Hindus don't bury the dead. They burn their dead. Cremation. And the Muslims do not do that. They bury the dead. And in this friend of mine, we all walked to the crematorium, and somebody got up and he gave a little Hindu worship, and he did that, and he said, "I hope he's happy wherever he is." Yeah, what a sad thing to think. You and I, when somebody dies, passes away, say he is with his Maker today. There's happiness in heaven today. He's with his family. He's in the arms of God. They can't say that because they don't know where they're going to be. You and I have a great privilege. We know where we're going. And who is going to greet us? The Father. Their gods were all kings and powerful people. People with swords who could kill somebody. Our God was totally different. He was full of love. He died for us instead. The exact opposite. We send missionaries all over the world as Christians. Have you seen a Hindu missionary school or a missionary hospital? No. You know why? Because their religion doesn't teach them that. It's just not there. You accumulate wealth for yourself because you worship the goddess of wealth, Maya, which is different. So it's different. from you and me, and we are privileged to have a father who has died for us. Guys, you got any questions for me or any comment or anything that I can talk about? The next Sunday. Next Sunday. I'll carry on the next part of my. Yeah, John Kay is going to come after that. I brought a couple of things to show you, which in the United States we think of things being old. When I was telling you about the Indian history, I brought a coin with me. You can pass it. It's from the 10th century. It's made out of silver, and in those days, it's an Indian coin. The way it was done was silver bars were made, they were cut and stamped with the kings. This is a Muslim king, or what you would call the Mughals. They were Persians. They ran over India thousands of years ago, actually in the 9th century. And so this is a Muslim king. That's why things that are written on there is in Persian, and basically it's their kalma, or their kalma is their word of Christ. You know how it says God gave His only Son for you. It's something to that effect. It's their kalma, or their whatever you want to call it, their slogan or whatever. This the Muslims were very different. They converted people by the sword. You either converted or they killed you. Okay. You know how we spread Christianity? Yes, sir.
So you talked about the Hindus. What is the Jewish population?
Very small. There are some Jews there. These were Jews that moved, oh, thousands of years ago. Most of them migrated back to Israel. There are some uh, Jewish temples still there in India, but they're almost empty. Yes, sir.
As a minority Christian, were your family ever discriminated against?
When you said discriminated means in India, discrimination takes a different form. It's not by color. We all look the same. Some are lighter, some are darker. But it comes into effect when you're looking for a job, you're getting married, or somebody dies. That's when these kind of things, the caste system and all these things come into effect most of the time. Not when you are in, there's no such thing saying that you can't come to this school, you can't go to this college. There is a certain amount of seats reserved for the Dalits, which are the people of the lowest caste, of the untouchables. And that's what I'll talk about next Sunday. Yes, the Sudras are the untouchables. In everything, in a medical college, there's so many seats reserved for them. And that causes a problem in India because the other people say, well, I'm smarter than they are. How come they get admitted into medical school or engineering college or a job or whatever? There's all kinds of riotings about that, and people get upset about that. Kind of like here. You would say, we're going to have 30 seats in this medical college, and you have to be black to be admitted. It'd be a problem. But the government is still trying to bring them up, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
Vijay, on a lighter note, there was an abundance of beef in Texas.
Yes.
Edible beef. And he got over it in a hurry. He told me. Yeah.
There was a problem. I ate too much beef. I was getting new beef, half a cow at a time. And of course, there was a problem with that. Is it was wonderful. I and my wife, we lost a lot of weight. We had steaks and hamburgers and roast beef and you name it. But the end result was at age 40, I had to have a quadruple bypass because it clogged up my arteries. There's a price to pay for all these things. Somewhere along the line, you got to pay up for all those things. So, guys, just one more thing I wanted to show you. By the way, where is my coin? Okay, I want it back. For a couple of things to show you. You see our hymn book that we have in a small village. This would be the Christian Hindi hymn book. Look at the size of it.
You don't have a copy of Kama Sutra.
No, I don't. Not the illustrated portion. And I'm going to tell you one more thing. The way education is done in India is very different from here. And that is because of till the 10th grade, your school teacher gives you the tests and grades your marks, and you are promoted or held back based upon that. After the 10th grade, it stops. After that, you have to have something called an enrollment number. Now, this is a piece of paper, but I have laminated it because I didn't want it torn. I've already got it torn. It's from 1961. An enrollment number, you are now just a number when you are in 10th grade. And when you take your final exam, it is not in your school. It is at any other different school. The government assigns which school you're going to go take the exam. You do not write your name on their test paper booklet. You write your enrollment number. So according to this, I was 19676. Imagine that many students were in the 10th grade. And the person who is going to review that and see whether you passed or failed and the numbers you're going to get, the exam, your grade, those books are all collected and sent to a different city where somebody totally different who has no idea who you are or you are, you're just a number, decides based upon that. So it's not that simple. So just because you play football or you play basketball doesn't mean that you can just get promoted to the next class or you're now in college or whatever. You're all blind until unless you're smart enough and you learn and you're being pushed by your parents to make sure you pass because you may or may not pass. I didn't several times. In the 10th grade, I had to repeat. All subjects are examined. And if you fail even one, you got to repeat the entire class. The subjects and they're written what subjects I'm going to be tested on. Hindi, English. When it says math, it means algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. Vigyan, which is science. Science means physics and chemistry. Jeev Vigyan. Jeev Vigyan means this, biology and botany and kala, which means art. So I had to pass all these things from there just to go to the 11th grade. That's why some of these guys, the Indian doctors that show up here, they're so darn smart, is because they had to hustle. They just couldn't pass just because That was the way it was easy. You had to work hard to work it. All right, guys. Thank you very much.